Later. Okay, thank you, robot lady. Okay, recording in progress. All right, so first things first, thank you so much for being here today, for coming to write. Before you write a thing, you should pat yourself on the back, or I don't know, just be proud of yourself for showing up. I find it extremely hard to sign up for something and then actually show up for it. Unless it's part of my job and I'm like lose my job if I don't show up. I think it's really hard, and it's very hard when it's for your own writing, I think. Unless you have someone, a friend or a class that you've paid for or something like this, right? To show up and do it. So I'm really glad you're here. And I'm really excited to write with you all. So I've got a couple prompts for us. We're going to jump right in a minute or two here. Just a quick logistical request is just to stay muted until you're going to be speaking, just because sometimes there's kind of funny background sounds and they're, distracting to others. So if you can do that, that would be lovely. And Zoom is always awkward in unexpected ways. So let's just like give each other a lot of grace. And also remember that we're not just brains in a jar. Like Rachel Menning said once, and I like always think about it when I'm on Zoom. You're in a body, and if you need to like take a break or stretch or turn your camera off for a little bit and then come back on, just so that you can like get a snack, get a drink, move around, please feel free to do that. I want this to be time for you to write in community, but it's hard to get to the good stuff if you're not like taking care of yourself in your body. Okay, so the idea behind this workshop is that we are going to do something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is simply beginning again. And the simple part often is something I question because I find it really hard to begin again. And I've been thinking a lot about Joseph Goldstein, a wonderful meditation teacher. He has this meditation where he reminds us when you're meditating and you get off track, which is inevitable. It's going to happen, 100 times for me, maybe in like a 5-minute meditation or, 10-minute meditation, that rather than beating ourselves up, instead we recognize, oh, I got off track, right? There goes my mind again. There goes my thoughts. You recognize it. And then rather than judging yourself, he says you should delight in the fact that you realize it or the fact that you remember. Delight feels like a stretch for me. Like it is hard for me to delight. Oh, someday maybe that's goals, right? That's like the ideal. But I think there's something to that idea of like not just not judging ourselves for remembering, like, hey, I got off track, right? Whether it's meditation, whether it's writing. I haven't written in a while. I haven't written since that class I took where I had hard deadlines and I had to show up with a draft, right? So rather than that, to say, I'm just going to start. I'm going to figure out how to get out of my own way, whatever it is. Maybe it's this workshop for you. Maybe you wrote last week, but you're finding it hard to get back to the page. Or maybe, like me, you really haven't had a practice for the last few months, maybe a year, whatever it is, rather than judging yourself, just letting yourself start. Okay, so what I want us to do is just do some quick introductions because I know that some people know each other and some people do not. And so what I would love for you to do is actually just, let's do it in the chat. So I've got some more people coming in. Just give you something to do, kind of get your hands moving. Tell us your name and your pronouns. Where are you in the world? And just what brings you here today. Doesn't have to be full sentences. A phrase is good. All right, Deborah's coming back in. Alicia. All right, and I'm gonna copy and paste this again for the people just coming in. All right, and for people who are just coming in, you should be able to see in the chat, we really just got started. All you missed was me making my little Zoom speech about how Zoom is awkward, so let's give each other grace. And to stay muted unless we're talking, because that is probably the greatest thing that makes things awkward. Yeah, so if you see, I would love for everybody to just throw into the chat your name and your pronouns, where you are in the world, and then what brings you here today. And that could be as simple as, I just want you to make me right. Or, right? I just want to be with other people who are trying to start again. Could be very simple. Or maybe it's you just wanted to see Carolee. That was one of my reasons. All right. Yay. Oh, creating space for writing and joy. I love that. Yes to that, Sydney. So nice. Yay. We miss you in workshop, Carolee. Really do. Craving time for writing. Elizabeth, thank you for that. Yay, Deborah, Pittsburgh. Excited to write today. Awesome. Kathy wanted to see me. I wanted to see you too. All right. Yay. All right, cool. All right. So if you're still doing that, go for it. I'm gonna put into the chat our kind of order of operations so that you know what's coming up. Very simple. We're mostly gonna write. But it'll kind of be like, all right, I throw a prompt out, then we write, then maybe we share a little in the chat, then we'll do another prompt. We're gonna wait to share aloud until the end. All right. We'll save some time at the end to share some pieces. And I will say, if you haven't been in a workshop with me before, I'll never force you to share. And you can always, if you want to share something, but you're like, oh, this stuff is really raw. I'd rather just talk about process. That's really great too, or just where you are right now in your writing life. Sometimes it's nice to like confess those things with people that get it. Right. Okay. So the other thing I want to say before I give us our first prompt is that these prompts are not prescriptive in any way, right? So if you've been in writing workshops before, you know the drill. I can't imagine a workshop where they are, but I feel like, it's hard to like unlearn that from school where the teacher gives you an assignment and you're supposed to, right, follow it, carry it out in a certain way. So I want you to know these prompts are hopefully just going to kind of spark something for you. And if I lay out a kind of pathway for it, and you're like, ooh, just hearing that poem read aloud got me going on something, I'm going to write just from the feeling that I have right now, or just that one word. Just ignore me and write. Okay. Always just privilege that energy that you get with a good idea. You're loving the sound of the language or whatever it is. Obviously do not feel like you have to come back and follow along and take, detailed notes. Just this is all to get you going. All right. Okay. So the first prompt that we're going to do is a kind of a way to warm up and also to kind of like clear out the cobwebs as I think of it in our brains and hearts a little bit. And if you've been reading my newsletter since last fall or so, it might look familiar. But this is the kind of thing that I do every couple months because it's very useful as a check-in for yourself as a writer and a human. So I call it medicines and poisons. And so it's a little bit of a reflective writing exercise. All right. And I'm going to read this quotation from Pema Chodron before we get started. And I'm going to put as much as I can in the chat that I'm actually going to read to you. Okay. just so that you also have another way in if you're someone who, like me, has a hard time staying just with like audio, all right? So I came up with this exercise, I think last summer, 2 summers ago, when I was reading Pema Chodron's The Wisdom of No Escape. And in it, she writes, even though there are so many teachings, so many meditations, so many instructions, the basic point of it all is just to learn to be extremely honest and also wholehearted about what exists in your mind. Thoughts, emotions, bodily sensations. Nobody else can really sort out for you what to accept, what opens up your world, and what to reject, what seems to keep you going round and round in some kind of repetitive misery. So I want us to think about kind of writing today as like, we're going to get to more good stuff if we can look at where we are at this moment pretty honestly, just for a few minutes. All right. And then we'll dive in and do a quote real writing exercise, right? This is like reflective writing as I think of it. So what I want you to think about is, the way that Pema Chodron defines a medicine, right, is as what opens you up and brings you energy. So, and I think of that as a writer and also just as a human. And then what closes you off and keeps you like in the corn maze, as I think of it, right, is a poison. And we all have like our own very specific poisons that we would rather like, we know what they all are if we really think about it. But, for me, my phone, number one poison, right? And many, many little vortexes I get pulled into in my phone. Comparison is another poison for me, comparing myself to other writers. Oh, it's like doldrums. I was actually there last night. I don't even know how it began, right? But like once it starts, you're just like, woo, okay. So what I want you to do, I'm going to put this in the chat. We're just going to take 5 minutes, all right? And I'll set a timer for us. Here we go. Okay, I know it's like a lot in the chat right now. So I want you to take a few minutes and reflect and just write out your own list. It doesn't need to be full sentences. This could be a list, right? What are your medicines? What are the things? And you can do this for your writing life, or you could just do it for your life, for yourself, right? Your emotional self, your spiritual self. What are your medicines? What opens you up and brings you energy? What makes you feel more alive or safe or most fully yourself? What helps heal you when you feel stressed or overwhelmed? What gets you going again with your writing, right? And what helps you keep writing? So your list could answer any of those. And then what are your poisons? What stops you from writing or from believing in your voice? What closes you off and keeps you in the corn maze of your own mind? What makes you feel trapped or small? What are those things that you can convince yourself will feel good, right, in the moment, but actually ultimately make you feel bad? Okay, take 5 minutes. I'm going to set a timer for us. And when we write, feel free to turn your camera off if you want, or leave it on, either way. Got about 2 minutes left. Keep going. Don't feel rushed. And for people who just came in, we're doing some reflective writing on the questions that I just put again in the chat about what are your medicines and what are your poisons. So that's, you could do it as a writer or just as a person, as a human. Got about 30 seconds left on the timer. Timer just went off. Take another 30 seconds. And just look back over your list. Oh, here's Carolyn. Actually, take another 30 seconds and just finish up. Get out whatever's still in your head. Anything else that you haven't gotten down or named there? And Carolyn, we're just wrapping up the first reflective writing exercise. You can see it in the chat about medicines and poisons. So you kind of missed the writing time, but yeah, you can do this one later for sure. Okay, for people who are kind of rounding the corner to the end there, what I would love for you to do is look back at your list for a minute and share a medicine and a poison, if you will, in the chat, something you feel comfortable sharing. And if you're like, oh, I don't want to share any of these, that's fine. But if you're up for it, share a medicine and a poison. You know, what are your particularly like strong medicines, right? That really help you. And then what are the things that close you down? I would just love to have us kind of see some of each other's before we move on. These are really powerful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing these. Oh, I feel connected to so many of these. Yeah. Give a comment to somebody or a heart or something where it connects for you. You know, see if you can find one like Kathy with showers. Absolutely. That is medicine, like visceral medicine, taking a shower. Oh, what what Alicia says about alone time too. That really connects. Hmm. Yeah, Ahimsa, what you said about feeling like nothing I say or write can matter or should matter. That is such poison, so silencing. I relate. Hmm. So what I'd love for us to do before we move on to the next prompt is just one more thing, okay? This is like the teacher in me. Like we have all these good thoughts, right? And some knowledge about yourself that you've just come to. Look back at your list for like 15 seconds. Doesn't have to be that long. And I just want you to think of one tangible thing you can do to either bring more of one of those medicines into your life or to, avoid the poison, like not drink the poison. Um, what is, or just circle the thing where you're like, I'm going to figure that out later. Like, how am I going to, you know, connect with someone who helps me get the writing done, or how am I going to limit the phone or, um, that feeling that what I say doesn't matter, right? Just think about one thing you can focus on. Hmm. Dana, music. Yes, music is medicine. Okay. Keep going with that. If you have more to write down or to think about, um, then we're gonna move on um, to the next prompt. All right. So if you've been in one of my Mad Women classes, you have done this with me, at least for the last couple semesters. This is my favorite prompt to get started again, and I often do it just alone. It's called the word collecting prompt. Okay. So I think sometimes when we have these blocks as writers, where there's just periods where life intervenes and you can't get to the page, sometimes what helps is just falling in love with words again, with the way that they sound, with the way that they feel, right? And so that's what I want to do right now is to not say, okay, I'm going to time you for 10 minutes and look at the blank page. Okay. What we're going to do is I am going to read you a poem, a beautiful poem, and you are going to collect words. Okay, so this is a simple job. Do not start writing a poem yet. I mean, unless you get very inspired, right? Poem, essay, story, whatever genre, isn't real, write whatever you want. Um, what I want you to do is to listen, all right? And this prompt, I want to say before I dive in, this prompt comes from a dear writer friend of mine, Sharon McDermott, who wrote a really wonderful book on craft that came out last year, Millions of Suns. She co-authored it with MC Benner Dixon. They're both based in Pittsburgh. I really recommend this book. If you don't have it yet, I'll put the link in the chat in a minute. But it's funny because I picked this poem, the poem that I'm going to read to you, I picked a couple days ago, and then I saw that the poet herself is actually here. And so I'm gonna bug her to actually read her own poem. So this is a poem by Carolyn Oliver. And this is a poem that I just love this poem so much. But it also has I love what it says and makes me feel. I also just love the language and the sounds in this poem. And I think you're going to get some words that are going to help you get started with writing. All right. So let me pull up the link to it right here. Okay. So with this prompt, I personally just like to listen the first time or two. And then, but I put the text in the chat just in case you're someone who needs the text. If you want to like pull it up for yourself and drive on your own, that's great. All right. But here's the prompt. I'm going to put that in the chat too, just so you can see it. All right. The process is, I am going to read to you. Although Carolyn's going to read the first version and then I'm going to read it again so that you basically get to hear the language. All right. And you are just going to make a list of words. You're not trying to make sense of them at all. All right. You're not. So you want to actually like resist trying to make them into a story or an essay or a poem. All right. You're just going to collect words. Just jot down the words that sound good to your ear, that kind of call out to you, that feel good to you. All right. Okay. So Carolyn, I would love it if you read it first and then I'll read it second.
Sure.
Okay, cool.
This poem is called My Son Asks If I Would Rather Live in a House Infested by Bees or a House Infested by Koalas. Late summer. Hurricane scraps batter the crabapple that didn't bloom this year, peeling open a paper nest high in the branches. Pitiless, I hope it's empty. Hope they're gone, the wasps. All these hot weeks, they've refused my offering of phlox and milkweed, sunflowers and ruby buckwheat. Instead, they've stalked the raised beds of vegetables I should tend, patrolled the deck when I need to rest, skimmed my neck for a flinch. Allergic to, my father as a child had a friend whose mother died, suffocated when a wasp or a bee stung her throat. So, my son's question. Survival means koalas on the stairs, lamps turned bows, menthol in the mouth. Means marked territories and the slow click of claws in the dark. Days safe in a house full of sleep. But sometimes, it feels right to tell you this. Sometimes, inside the storm, I want to touch the tremble of a colony warming its queen. I want walls seeping honey. I want a willing tongue.
Such a stunning poem. Okay, I'm going to read it one more time because I've realized it's nice with this exercise to just hear the language again. You know, sometimes it's hard to get it down, the words that you want. All right. It's actually painful for me to read this after hearing you read it, Carolyn, because your reading voice is so beautiful, but I want you to be able to get some words from your own poem. I'm curious if this will work with your own poem. I think it will. I want you to try to write a new poem using some of these words. Okay. My son asks if I would rather live in a house infested by bees or a house infested by koalas. Late summer, hurricane scraps batter the crab apple that didn't bloom this year, peeling open a paper nest high in the branches. Pitiless, I hope it's empty. Hope they've gone, the wasps. All these hot weeks, they've refused my offering of phlox and milkweed, sunflowers and ruby buckwheat. Instead, they've stalked the raised beds of vegetables I should tend, patrolled the deck when I need to rest, skimmed my neck for a flinch. Allergic to, my father as a child had a friend whose mother died, suffocated when a wasp or a bee stung her throat. So my son's question. Survival means koalas on the stairs, lamps turned bows, menthol in the mouth. Means marked territories and the slow click of claws in the dark. Days safe in a house full of sleep. But sometimes it feels right to tell you this. Sometimes inside the storm, I want to touch the tremble of a colony warming its queen. I want walls seeping honey. I want a willing tongue. Okay. So now we're gonna write. Okay, so I'm gonna just put in the chat. What I want you to do is try to choose 5 to 10 words, or just whatever words from that piece are calling out to you, and write something. And it can be any genre, any style. Don't edit, don't worry about punctuation, like just Natalie Goldberg style. Just go, just write, free write with the flow. All right, and I'm going to time us. All right. got about 2 minutes left on the timer, but we can go more than that if people would like it. Take another 30 seconds or so, try to get out whatever ideas or words are in your head. And if you're feeling the flow, ignore me, please. Follow the writing. All right. Let's come back together. And I would love for, again, if you're in the flow, keep going, ignore me. If you reached a kind of natural pause point, you've got some words, a start. I would love to have everybody just share something in the chat. It could be like a barbaric yawp, like I couldn't get anything, or here's a line, here's a phrase, here's the word that I loved. Or you could share about process. Okay, so just share something. Again, it doesn't have to be full sentence. But just a sense of how that went. And we will have a little bit of time at the end to share aloud, whoever would like to. Oh, there's so many good things here. So much good language. Eloise, I'm glad you manifested the poem. Yeah, giant eagle. Oh, Carolyn, I'm sorry it didn't work for you. That's good to know. I can imagine that. Like,
It's the first poem in the book and the source of the title for the book, so I pretty much always read it. So I think that's why. I think maybe a different poem would have been different.
so it's so good. I actually wanted to put a link to it in the chat and your new book. Okay. Oh, and someone just asked if we're going to, wait, you said one or two, or so we're gonna go for until another half hour. We'll go until 2:30 Pacific time or 5:30 Eastern time. I don't know where you all are. All right, I'm putting a link to Carolyn's book in the chat, and she also has another book coming out really soon. You should pre-order. I didn't mean for this to be like a pump up session, but it's happening. So go with it. Yeah, everybody, if you don't know her work, you got to read it. There's, yeah.
Yes, I wrote this poem for Mad Woman, now that I'm thinking about it.
Did you really?
Yeah, this is a Mad Woman poem.
I remember it.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Okay. So another way to use that as a prompt too, which I was realizing as I was writing, is to use would you rather, which is a book that like my son has been reading. Would you rather, have to, I don't know, eat a snake or right, like the ridiculous questions where you're like, I don't want to do either of those things. But that's a good way into a piece. Just saying, you could Google that, right? Write that down for future. Oh, this is awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing in the chat. Okay, so I want to, first of all, I want to say, I don't want to take a break right now as a whole class, but I really, for people who came in a little bit later, I just wanted to say, please take breaks as you need them. All right, we'll go until 2:30 Pacific times. We'll do one more prompt and then we'll share. But as you need to get up, stretch, everybody maybe do a stretch now. Like if you haven't done that in a minute or two, feel free to get up. And I'm actually just gonna get up for a second because that really helps me. We're not meant to live in these little boxes, be in our chairs all day, although this is what work is, right? For many of us. And a lot of the work with writing is getting our butts in the chair. Okay, this next prompt is going to be a little bit different, but it's another one that for me is a tried and true one that I can do time and time again. And it very much kind of breaks the ice and just gets me out of, right, kind of past the block or opening up again to language. So let me put, this is another one that I wrote about. So I'm going to put that in the chat, just if you want to look at it for later for yourself, kind of in more detail. But I'm going to just talk us through it right now. Very simple. It's called 7 Observations. Okay. And this is something that I started doing when I was very, very, very blocked. I feel like now I'm very blocked. This was like me like a year ago was very, very, very blocked and just like was not writing at all. And my friend Jen Stewart Miller, really amazing poet, was talking about a workshop she had done with the poet Elaine Sexton. I don't know if others know her, another incredible poet. And Elaine talked about, okay, look, on any given day, no matter how busy you are or how stressed you feel or what's going on in your world, you can always make a list of 7 things. Okay. And like the language doesn't have to be perfect, but you can list out 7 things. And Jen said this to me when I was like very low. She said, just try it. And what she said, Elaine recommended she do, and you can see it like the longer post, there's a quote from Elaine in a little more detail. What Elaine did was she would exchange every day when she would do her like morning pages, and then she'd be like, all right, I'm going to write for a little bit. She would write a list of 7 things that she observed, and then she would send them to a friend. So sometimes she would just text it, sometimes she would email, or write it by hand and send a picture, like various ways. But what she said was over time, this practice tuned her to noticing things more, right? It just helped her to learn to observe those tiny details. It kind of gets your brain wired again for writing, right? Which is really about noticing and naming. And so one of my favorite ways to do this, and I will tell you, you can do it right now, either going for a walk. My favorite way to do it is to force myself to go on a walk. It's very hard for me to leave my house. And so I have to think of it as like I'm forcing myself to leave my house. And I did this the other day and I just walked up the block, just like half a block and then back. And I made a list on my phone. I've also done it just with like a pack of Post-it notes, or a little notebook, whatever works. So I'm gonna time us. I'm gonna give us 10 minutes. Okay. And what I want you to do is think about, you could go on a short walk around your room, around your apartment, your house, or you could walk to your yard, right up the block back. You can't go too far, because of the time, or you can do this from your seat. I think I might actually do it just from here right now because my family's out there and I'll get sucked in. So that is actually a good practice too, right? If you do it from where you are, this wherever you are sitting is probably a space that you know pretty well, where your eyes are pretty like familiarized, right, to what you're seeing so much that you probably don't even see it. That can be a good challenge actually, right? To try to like look around and actually see what you're looking at. So you could try that. Okay. So in whatever way works for you, I'm going to put it in the chat. I'm going to set a timer and all you're going to do at first, this is again, another way to just like break it down and keep this simple. And then you're going to use it to write. So at first you're just listening. You're not trying to write a story or a poem or an essay or in anything. All right. Make a list of 7 observations. Include sensory details. You have to include some sensory details. Okay, because what you notice, and really think about the 5 senses, right? A lot of times those are the things with texture that you're going to be able to like come back to and work with. Don't worry about full sentences, editing, all that stuff. All right, 7 things. I'm going to set a timer. Got a couple minutes left. If you got to 7, and you want to go to the next step, is to look over that list and circle 1 or 2 that have the most heat or power for you. All right, and I'll put the next step in the chat too, because I know everybody's got different, kind of flows. All right. If you're still listing, that's great. Keep going. Okay, so I'm putting in the chat what I see as the next step, right? So once you've got your list, then you're going to choose what's calling out to you that you want to write into in some way, just for a start. Okay. And if you're like, none of these are really feeling great to me, I would recommend kind of breaking it down further. So you could pick a noun or an object, right? Because you're observing things from one line and kind of mix it up with a noun or object, or maybe an adjective or verb. I don't know how many verbs you have in there, things doing things that you're observing around you, right? And kind of mash them up, right? And see what combining those elements does. One last thing, and I put this in the chat. Sometimes if you bring in a hedging word, to start a sentence, it can be useful. It kind of like helps you write into the gray, into that like middle space. So I'm going to time us. I'm just going to give us about 5 more minutes. And I want you to try to do something with your list, whatever that might be for you. All right. And then we'll come back together. Got about another 30 seconds or so. Keep going if you're on a roll. Okay. Take a few more seconds and get out, whatever those last ideas are in your head. And if you're on a roll, keep going and ignore me. And we're going to shift into some time to share. All right. So again, if you're on a roll, keep going, follow the writing, follow the good energy. And I would love, we got 15 minutes left together before we head out. So I would love for there to be space for people to share aloud, right? All or part of a draft that you got from anything we did. Or feel free to put part of something or all of something into the chat or to share about process. Okay, I would love that. So Victoria, do you want to share?
Yes, I do, but I also want to say something. The 7 observations is another thing that I do, and especially in the month of October, for some reason, I made it a challenge to myself, is to write a haiku every day for 31 days. That just gets 575, that just gets observation going of the natural world. So that's actually
Yeah.
worked for me. I wanted to thank you and also Carolyn. I did get something from, and also I have notes for something else. So I used, I don't know how many words, but this one is called The Storm.
Mm.
The storm marks its territory, blooms to a category 4, makes landfall, becomes the queen of the hurricanes so far this season, Helene. Oh, what those in her path lost. The 20-year-old crabapple tree raised beds, their homes, seeping water, infested with mud, and their cars flooded out, allergic to the surge, electric ones starting fires. In the eye of the hurricane, a blue circle seen on radar, bees and wasps and migrating birds transported like Judy Garland and Toto to a not so wonderful place of destruction.
Oof.
Or devastation. I'm not sure which is the ending word. I think devastation is better.
Wow, that was beautiful. Oh
Thank
my
you.
God. I've been thinking about you with the storm. Are you
Oh, there's stories to tell. There's stories to
okay?
tell.
Okay,
But
for another.
don't have enough
Yeah.
time. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad you got that poem. That was incredible. Thank you so much. So vivid. And your voice is so strong. I missed hearing you read your work. Yeah. Anybody else want to share a piece or something about your process, or feel free to put something in the chat too. And feel free to share frustrations. If you didn't get anything, you know, or just talking about your process. I appreciate, Victoria, what you shared too about using haiku, writing a haiku every day as a way to start observing and to have that, like, build up that observation practice. I love that. Yeah, if anyone has other ways that help you, to write, does anyone do morning pages? I feel like Carolee, you're a morning pages person like me. Yeah. That kind of gets the engines going a little bit. Yeah. Anybody else want to share?
I will.
Yeah, Elizabeth, go for it.
It's from the word bank prompt. Hurricane summer, travel right there in the eye, clouds circle like walls, like an arena, a cage where one may choose to stay still and asleep, laying down before the queen, or claw a way, a path, a gate, a door. There will be flinching and bright lights that sting, but there too will be freedom.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh. Wow. All right. Incredible. Call a way. There's so much power that you were building up there with that, Elizabeth. Can you read that again, actually? I just want to hear it again. Call a way, a path. Will you read that?
Or claw a way, a path, a gate, a door. There will be flinching and bright lights that sting, but there too will be freedom.
Oof. Oh my God. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. I kind of want to go right just from that. You know, I feel like that's the thing about writing together is like, even if we're in these Zoom boxes and we're in different places, I feel like we're feeding off of each other's creative energy a little bit, right? Yeah. What else? Anybody else want to share?
I'll share. It's scary.
Yay.
I'll share.
It's
I just want to say that the observations thing was so hard for me, and it made me realize how much I live in my head. Like, it was actually a really useful excerpt. Like, I could write the observations, but I couldn't springboard anything. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's because that's not where I usually live. I don't live there.
that actually, does anyone that resonate with anyone else? That you just named my reality. That's I'm realizing it's funny, like I brought this for you all because I was like, this really helped me in the past. I'm like, I need to do it again. Because
Yeah.
I actually feel like it's a mindfulness thing. Like it forces me to, where am I? Where,
Yep.
what's actually happening? Thanks
Yep.
for sharing that.
Yeah. But I can share what I did from the first prompt if you want.
Yeah, love that.
I've suffocated all summer, hot grief making me flinch every time I open my eyes to find reality unaltered even after a good night's sleep. I am willing to go back, to follow whatever breadcrumbs lead to safe, to open, to flocks tumbling down the hillside. But reality is pitiless. Nothing was ever safe, it whispers in response to a question I have not asked. The voice is merciless. It wants me to cower, and I do, feeling it vibrate in every joint and sinew. My body tires of fighting, of walking uphill, of breathing in air while you cannot. There's something in a physics lesson, Einstein maybe, matter continues on, which means maybe you are still here, but I am not. I am a trembling absence, scraps of what I once was, maybe less, since my existence comes from yours, and without yours, maybe mine ceases too.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that one really, I felt that. Thank you for writing and sharing that. It's hard to share in a new space, when you don't know everyone too yet, right? So thank you that was really powerful, Deborah. Anybody else? We have a few more minutes. Yeah, Julie, and then Eloise.
Yeah, this comes from the observation one. This is an observation that I've made so many times since I've lived here, but I've never written it down. So I wrote it down today.
Yay.
I watch rain drip from utility wires. Not enough lines for proper musical stanzas. Drops bloom into whole notes, ping to yellow brick below. What do birds hear that I can only see?
Hmm. Whoa. That question. Damn. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, okay. I expect to see you bring that to workshop at some point. Keep going with that. From utility wires. What do birds hear? What was the line again? What do birds hear that I can only see? I love that. Writing that down. Thank you for sharing that. Man, you all are getting good stuff. This really makes me happy. Eloise, do you want to share something?
Sure, thank you. Very basic. But I'm happy to share because I haven't shared in a long time.
Yeah.
Thank you for these ideas about haiku and the 7 words. I think I'm going to do those during the retreat. They'll be great.
Yes.
Yeah, a good way to start.
Mhm.
So this is from the first prompt. Would I rather be betrothed to someone who might batter me with hate or suffocate me with love? Or be alone on my own, sometimes penniless, hearing the clicking of my own claws grasping for connection?
Oh.
Yes, I want to touch the tremble, the vibration, the flow, the flux of what life could bring me, but unsure, I again refuse the offering.
Hmm. Oh, stunning. Can you read that question again? Would I rather be betrothed? Can you read that?
Yeah. Would I rather be betrothed to someone who might batter me with hate or suffocate me with love, or be alone on my own, sometimes penniless, hearing the clicking of my own claws grasping for connection? Yes, I want to touch the tremble, the vibration, the flow, the flux of what life could bring me, but unsure, I again refuse the offering.
Oof. That you just went to some other plane? Like Eloise, you
Oh,
are ready for that retreat.
yeah,
It's
thank you.
like you that was on another plane. And the clicking of my own claws, I felt that. Carolyn, this must be wild for you to hear. Like the I feel like all these poems are set, right? They're kind of in conversation with your poem. They're using, right, these like powerful words from it. Oh, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. All right, we got a couple minutes left. Any people like me who usually are like, I don't want to share, then maybe at the end suddenly get courageous and are like, I'll do it. I'll share something. Feel free to put it in the chat too. Um, I don't really have anything that like I got some stuff I'm excited to go back to.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, please.
I saw this morning, sometimes watching television helps me write because
Mm.
I get bored of it. And so I just like start writing. But I was watching a Coldplay was on the morning show, CBS morning show.
Mm.
And he said, writing songs, he said that sometimes he writes just to clear it out of his head. And
Mm.
then he either burns it or tears it up and throws it away. So in the very least, this is a good thing to do, to write out and just, even if it's garbage, even if it's garbage, even if you don't get anything,
Yeah, yeah.
it clears, it clears the path.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think we often, it's funny, you're making me realize like even my language around saying like we got something, there's something even about coming to this space and saying, I'm gonna write, I'm gonna leave with a couple drafts, a couple starts. And that is a real thing, right? To leave, like I'm excited about I wrote some starts, like fragments and scraps that I feel like I can play with. But that's not to take away from, like, to say like, okay, if you leave and you're like, I don't have anything I really like, it's still, first of all, like the Natalie Goldberg idea, right? Or Julie Cameron is like, you're building muscle memory. Like you're, by just writing, you're gonna, and even just that set, making a list of 7 things. Now we're gonna go off back into the, the flow of our night, and we're gonna be noticing things a little bit more, right? And so language is going to start to come. And maybe it's more about the process than just that product. Yeah, like what it does for us. To clear it out. Yeah. And then maybe that makes way for something else, right? That needs to come. Yeah. That's beautiful. And Deborah just gave you, I don't know, Victoria, if you're looking in the chat. So I want to make sure you saw that. Cool. All right. Anybody else before we head out? Anyone who just want to talk about process? Or about like the block or anything that's going to help, anything that helped to just kind of get going today. I will say that one thing I've learned about myself, just lately, is that I need to be accountable to other people to actually finish a draft. And so I have been forcing myself to start going to a workshop again with a couple writer friends, because otherwise I'm never going to finish this essay that I'm writing. I just won't.
I do the same thing, Emily. I have a group of, not very big group, but a group of people down here in Florida, which they never really did workshops, so they really didn't understand about workshops. So
Yeah.
I've got a few people that actually will, be able to read, and I read their work, and then we basically comment on them. And one thing that I'm no good at is punctuation, and I hate editing, so that it keeps me accountable. And I would say I invite anybody, if they want to, form a little group and bring something, because I do work by deadlines. I mean, I'll sit there and I go, well, we have this writing workshop, and I gotta have something. And so it allows me to put pen to paper and also be accountable to other people. So, that kind of a thing, if you wanted to start something in that, I might even pay money for that.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think it's really important. If anyone out there, I mean, this generative workshop like this, so I'm going to run more of these. I'm also gonna invite some friends I have who are teachers. So I'm hoping to weave in some yoga and some meditation, and maybe some other kinds of practices that I think really work well with writing. So I'm going to try to offer these in, every month, or at least every other month moving forward. So I will keep you posted on those. But I really do recommend, I think, having workshops where you critique, you really need to do that with a group over time so that you can build trust. Yeah, so I wouldn't want to do that in this space today, but I think if this was good for you, I would really welcome, just, send me an email, and let me know what worked for you, what you would like to see more of. Because I'm really enjoying just bringing people together, and especially because I just relocated, I have a lot fewer writer people in person. So I'm really looking to just keep creating space for a community and people to connect. So
Where are you now?
I am in LA now. I'm on the West Coast.
What? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We just moved about a month and a half ago. I miss Pittsburgh. But it's good here, but I'm kind of away from the writing epicenter of LA. We're a little bit south. So yeah, anyway, I will be doing more of this. Please let me know, what you would like to see more of, and keep going with your drafts. One other thing I will throw out there before we all head out. If you would like, you should send your some of your lists to a friend. And I'm happy to be your friend. If you need like a person to go back and forth with, or just to receive and read, if you're like, all right, this was good for me, I started again, I simply began, now I want to keep doing a morning writing practice. I'm happy to be your person to help you get started. Okay. But also, look for other people around you, maybe a friend, secret writer at your job, someone else who, right, is also trying to create that space. It can be really good to have accountability, to keep going. All right. Thank you all. And thanks, Carolyn, for letting me pick on you and reading your
Thank
poem.
you. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks, Victoria. Thank you all for coming. It was great to see you.
Great to see you.
And I'm going to share this. Yeah, I'll share this recording too. So feel free to share with others who need some prompts. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Really good to see you all. All right. I got to save this chat. There we go.
Hi, Emily.
Bye, Eloise. This was so great.